All right. Let's go. Ready? Hey, can I move on? Yes. Let's go. Okay.
All right.
Start it off.
No, after you. You always do this.
Welcome everybody to the RaynMan Power Panel. This panel is based on a podcast that Frank and I did for a number of years on the UVN website and comic related. I think we did 72 episodes. We tried to get to 73, but he became a diva. Scheduling got hard.
Ask for more perks, like
Yes.
coffee. It just didn't work out.
All green M&Ms.
This is RaynMan Omega. Omega is in the final frontier, the final show. The death of Bill and Frank. At least the death of Bill.
The divorce.
The divorce,
The
so
divorce.
whatever you want to say. Whatever ending comes into play, we're applying it to this. But actually, the plan is, since death in the modern comic universe is only a temporary thing, we're trying to up our value by killing ourselves off and then coming back in 2 years.
We actually did on the show. I think Ted probably remembers.
We did.
And we numbered ourselves and everything else.
Ultimate. Oh my God, that's why we have
That's why
Ted
these are
here.
our fans.
Ted's our daggone conscience and memory.
But this could be, and probably is, the last RaynMan get together. That's why it is Omega. And we're going to talk about all kinds of endings, death being one, but there's other endings in comics as well. There's unfortunately creative teams that leave, cancellations. So we'll touch all those a little bit. So,
But we do, and even though I know it's a multi-packed house, we do encourage audience participation, so please blurt anything out.
please,
It's okay. Any questions?
any of the 35 of you out there.
As much as Bill likes to hear himself talk, I prefer some interaction. So please, all you many people, just don't hesitate to speak up.
We might get more. You never know. I hope we have room for more later. So start out the first thing. We're going to talk about.
I don't have my glasses on. God help me. All right, hold on. I'm showing the professionalism here. Now, everyone has read a comic with death, right? A death of somebody. Okay.
So in case you didn't notice, our first subject will be death in comics.
I know Ted knows all this, but I'll go to our younger readers. Have you ever guys read a run that stopped that you wished maybe didn't stop, or you guys have particular artists or creators that you like to read?
Well, when there was that whole New 52 thing, there was the Jeff Johns runs and stuff, which was good, and then they left.
There you go.
Okay, well
They had lost the book because of a creator left, or they just
Right.
canceled it. What happened with the Jeff Johns stuff? They canceled it, or
I
did
think
somebody
it
else?
was like the Aquaman runs, I think he left that.
He left.
And then, now he's doing movies, I think.
Ah, yes, he's doing.
Michael Richard, what about you guys?
Oh, you know those guys have read some books that got pulled out from under them.
Oh, God.
Yes, Michael will be here all day. It's only a 55-minute panel.
I'm not used to seeing him with hair.
I know, isn't it weird?
it's not real. But it just looks so good.
It just feels right.
I can't get over the fact that Jeff Johns left Aquaman and then tanked. Get it?
Well, anyhow, how we're going to go down the list is we're going to start off with just generalized death in comics. And actually, Bill and I discovered a few things, except for our young viewers over here. Does anybody remember what they feel like is the first meaningful death in comics?
What would you think would be the first?
Because actually, Bill and I were surprised by this. We had our own set of answers, but then I kind of remembered something, I dug it up, and I was right. And it's actually weird because not many people know this. Anybody?
Captain Stacy. Captain Stacy.
Good. That was that your?
That was me.
That was him. I first said Gwen Stacy. He went Captain Stacy. There's one that was on the bench around that time, but there's actually one probably
in the golden age.
in the golden age, 20 some odd
comics.
years beforehand. Anybody guess? It's not a popular character, but it involves a popular character. The popular character didn't die. The hero
Rick
didn't
Jones?
die. Huh?
Rick Jones?
That's not 26 years prior to Marvel. All right, I can't stand the suspense.
You give him a break. He's just like Booster Gold.
He is.
I only know future stuff.
Someone, Rich, at one point, pan the camera on him and just show the costume.
No.
Actually involved Batman.
Batman.
Back in Detective Comics 31 and 32. Huh? No, he didn't kill Alfred. Ted.
We should have killed Alfred.
No, but he used to. People don't realize that before Batman had his coat, he carried a gun.
Carried a gun.
But he killed a guy, the Mad Monk.
And his assistant Dala,
And
which
his
I don't know if
assistant
Dala's a guy or a girl. It's a kind of unisexual name.
Right. But Batman killed. And they basically, it's very, very subtle, but it's there. And then actually the books are, if you look it up, as far as the significance, of course, it's Detective Comics 3132. You're talking about the fourth and fifth Batman, basically. It's basically the fact that Batman kills somebody. And who the hell thinks that? Batman doesn't kill, right? But that was before they established we have a code.
And I actually argued with this with Frank because I thought, well, he told me that.
Wait. This is the logic. Any Walking Dead fans in here? Oh my God, no. Okay, I should have said.
Well, I
I was
thought,
like, well, if it's a vampire. If it's a vampire, it's not really killing somebody.
yeah, killing a vampire or a zombie is different than killing, say, Richard. We don't want to kill Richard, you know. It's like we
I
know
do
Richard.
sometimes.
But that's the first one we came up with. The second one would probably be.
But in all honesty, not many people know that. It's not significant in the sense that people go, oh my God, it's the first death in comics, or the first whatever.
But it's the first time that a hero ever used a gun to kill anybody.
Yes.
Long before the Punisher.
Long before the Punisher.
Next one we came up with the death of Uncle Ben. Don't really see it, but it happens, and
It triggers Spider-Man.
it's the origin story of Spider-Man. So you know, and then the last one that we have is
Which is Death of Bucky, which is in Avengers 4. And once again, it's really odd because, you know, you think about the Silver Age as not being hardcore, and it's not, but it's the death of a popular character, and that's right on the cusp
from the
of
Golden Age.
Right. Well, and it's what, 4 years or 5 years removed from what we started talking about, which comics started taking a turn looking at social aspects and going more hardline, which was the death of Captain Stacy, Gwen Stacy, and then of course, is that
We're getting into this.
am I jumping on that?
You're jumping. You always jump.
Shit, I'm sorry, my fault. Oh, bleep that out, Richard,
We're gonna
please.
sleep it out. It's RaynMan, of course.
Anyhow,
We have some notable non-superhero deaths, and the first one on that, one that Frank brought up, the Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil run on Green Arrow, on Green Lantern, Green Arrow.
yes.
There's a junkie that dies in the comics. It's the first time you actually see somebody die on the panels. And it's a little bit of a gimmick death because the issue before, you see Roy Harper basically shooting a horse on the cover. And then the next one, you're showing Green Arrow, this guy is too late, we can't save him, we don't have no Narcan. And it's like,
They don't say Narcan.
you know, he's got Deacon Arrow on.
I know, but they don't say Narcan, Bill. Don't. But that was coming to a time where I don't know how many people read the older books, you know, but it was a social age. Green Lantern, Green Arrow was tackling racism. Right after that is the infamous
Overpopulation and everything.
Speedy, his sidekick, shooting up heroin.
Right.
You know, so, and that was a big. Did they lose the comic code for that?
I don't think they lost.
Because Marvel did for their little drug.
Marvel had to drop theirs for their 2 issues.
Right. But you're talking about at a time and age where the social unrest was coming to fruition in comics.
Right.
You know, where suddenly comics were no longer just
Seen for kids.
all happiness. Right.
Then the next one is the death of Captain George Stacy, Spider-Man number 90. Yes.
Which you hit.
Which, Ted will tell you, how does he die?
Dr. Octopus?
No.
Yes.
Was it Octopus?
Octopus
Yeah.
knocked the chimney on him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And then he reveals to Peter that he knows, well, he reveals to Spider-Man, he knows that he's Peter Parker, and he asks that Peter to watch over Gwen, which he does a great job until issue.
Until she dies. Stacy. And then after that, now actually Bill came up to speed on this. We kind of time traveled a little bit down the way because everyone knows Gwen Stacy. Even you guys know Gwen Stacy, right? The whole
Yeah,
Gwen
well,
Stacy.
Amazing Spider-Man 2, they saw that.
But then what comes down to is what Bill pointed out was the John Byrne run in Fantastic Four 267, which is Sue Storm's miscarriage.
Yes, it's a really good issue. It's her second child, and due to the mutation of her cells, she loses the baby. And here you have the most powerful people in the world that are helpless to stop this from happening. And it's a really, you know, I'm a big John Byrne fan. I know Ted's a big John Byrne fan. So it really, really is a good issue. And the next one's just as good too. It's also from the John Byrne era, which is 285. There's a young boy named Tommy whose favorite hero is the Human Torch. He gets bullied at school a lot and everything. So one day he thought he would try to imitate the Human Torch, and he pours this model jet fuel on him and sets himself on fire to try to be like the Human Torch, and he ends up dying in the hospital.
And this is loosely on the fact that in the 60s, Marvel came out with their own set of comic cartoons. Very cheesy.
Oh, yeah, good time.
Great little sing-alongs
Right.
with it. But they had the torch that was fired up. But then if you notice in the 80s when they brought back the FF, they didn't use the torch
They used
because
Herbie.
2 kids did set themselves on fire.
So,
And I think that story was loosely, not like a, it's loosely based on that per se.
I know
Now,
about that.
I need to put a caveat in there because there's a lot of good stuff out there, and now through reprints and things like that, this is stuff that impacted a big streamlined industry like Marvel or DC. I told Bill, I don't know how we'd get by, but you ever read Miracle Man or Marvel Man? Okay, for 1982, 80, 81, 82, 83, this stuff is absolutely amazing. If you ever get a chance, the only thing is it's violent. And I mean, it's violent in a way. And I mean, it is very, like, they actually show a pregnancy. I mean, I'm talking about a pregnancy, wide views, gore, ooze, everything. His happy sidekick is no longer a happy sidekick, he's psychotic. He kills 40,000 people, and not in an explosion. It's literally a pull-out panel of the worst type of massacres, because he's a super, and I told Bill, I was like, how do we get around that? Because that's like really the first.
Frank has the coloring book version of the story.
It's so gory.
The color forms. He has the color forms of Miracle.
Right, but it was independent. These books were hardly,
It's overseas.
Right. And then of course Marvel bought out the rights, and Marvel has the reprints of it. So actually, if you ever want to read it, it's out there. It's actually very good. Alan Moore, are you familiar with Alan Moore? He wrote it. It's excellent.
Then we go into the most shocking deaths, and the first on our list is Gwen Stacy. Amazing Spider-Man 122. I don't know.
You put down 121.
It is 121. Yeah, Harry. It is
At the end of it. At the end of it.
122 is when Harry dies.
And it actually shows. It actually shows the crick, the snap in the neck.
For those of you that are you familiar with her death, when she breaks her neck falling off the roof? Wow, they're up in their comics.
Well, they watched Amazing Spider-Man.
Well, they didn't watch. They didn't even watch that movie. They were even
Good for you. That is awesome. That movie's terrible.
That's a quick death right
I'm
there.
talking about 2, right? Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 1, Amazing Spider-Man 1 was all
As
right.
Charles Barkley would say, terrible.
Terrible. Then the next death we have is
X-Men 95, which is the death of
anybody?
Thunderbird!
They killed
Everyone's
him.
favorite Indian.
They killed him off because he was named after cheap wine. You know that?
Actually, it's not everyone's favorite Indian. It's the Indian that says, please don't litter, that cries.
Oh.
They throw litter at his feet. That's everyone's favorite Indian in the modern...
Why do you think they killed off Thunderbird?
Well, Bill and I had this discussion in detail, but actually didn't Claremont touch on this a little bit?
I don't know. It was still Lin Line when he wrote when that's going.
Oh, it's Claremont. Apparently, there was a decision that had to be made. Thunderbird was too close to
too much in life.
Wolverine. And they couldn't have 2 of the same type of characters on there. By God, did they make the right choice. Because, boy, what would history be like if Thunderbird was the prevailing character? We would have Thunderbird 1, 2, and 3 with Hugh Jackman as Thunderbird.
But going into the story aspects of Thunderbird's death, we talked about this in the 2. They used that death to kind of pull the X-Men together, inspire them and motivate them. If you play Hero Clicks, the little figure game, if you have a Thunderbird click and he gets killed, the rest of the X-Men are harder to beat because they get motivated by Thunderbird's death. So they work it in there pretty good. But and then later on, his brother, who is called Thunderbird, was John Proudstar. James Proudstar becomes Warpath, and he becomes a pretty decent character. So it's pretty cool that they were able to springboard that. Then we have the most
famous X-Men death.
Yeah, there you go.
Death of?
Jean Grey.
What is she?
Yeah, what is she?
Oh, 137?
137. So yes, and then and at that time that was very shocking. I remember when I first read that book, I didn't know Jean Grey was going to die in that book. And I read that, I was like, dropped it. I was like, oh my God, they killed Jean Grey.
For those of you who are looking down, Bill Fay just called me. I just wanted to make sure that no one stole our auction stuff.
Oh, I know. He's your back
Shut
man.
up.
He's your sugar
Shut up! He owns the auction, dude. What do you want me to do about
I
it?
know what he owns. Your ass.
Shut up!
So, Jean,
If that was the case, I would have answered the call in the middle of the game thing. No, you keep rolling. This is how we do things here. Damn it.
but with the death of Jean, you guys are familiar with that story? A little bit.
I feel so old.
She gets.
When they say they haven't read it because they're young.
But if you saw, they've done a version of this in the movies as well, and it's really done poorly in X-Men.
Have you watched many comic movies?
I've seen all the X-Men movies.
You got to get her exposed. I mean, oh God, you shouldn't say it like that. You have to get her watching those movies. I was ready to go, been there, done that. Dun, dun, dun. Anyhow.
But Jean becomes this powerful cosmic entity that has a very dark side. She's actually responsible for killing 7 billion people. She steals the energy from this star, wipes out this whole solar system. And she realizes that she can never control this energy, so she actually chooses to commit suicide on the moon. And as a great death, unfortunately, they brought her back a few years later and did nothing with the character for about another 100 issues.
But it wasn't a gimmick. That should be noted. It wasn't. In other words, and we'll get to this later on. There was no plan when they killed her off
to bring her
back. It just so happened that down the road they figured out, well, hey, you know what? She was really popular. You know,
and there is a way. There is
a way.
Door has been opened now.
Yeah, and there is a way to bring her back. We can bring her back, and actually, believe it or not, it was actually kind of
an interesting way to bring her back. It's just that she got overplayed.
I want to say it was successful in the sense that people were happy. You know, people weren't. But like you didn't have the negativity of, well, I don't want to say negativity. It just, I don't know, people accepted it all. It was actually accepted all right.
It was okay because you got the original X-Men back and X-Factor. Yay.
Yay. Hooray.
Then we have the death of, it's a very tragic death because this character has a very tragic existence. And his best friend turns on him.
Gladman.
His best friend turns on him and kills him. We're talking Adam Warlock being killed by Thanos in Avengers Annual 7.
Are you familiar with Thanos? Don't ever fall for the misconception. It's Thanos, Thanatos, not Thanos. Like
don't say it like
Don't
Thanos.
say it like
Don't
anus.
say it like that.
I told Bill we could make money with the shirt, but Thanos going, my name does not rhyme with anus.
But with the death of Adam, it's really cool because you actually saw his death a few months earlier. He knew it was coming. He didn't know exactly how. And he had to destroy certain aspects of his soul to make sure that it ends this way. Well, actually, it ensured that the Magnus was never created.
Now, Bill and I disagree in the sense that I didn't think it was as impactful to death as he did.
Right.
Because of the fact that at the time, now Adam Warlock with the movies coming out, you know, there's the potential of his name getting spread out better. But back then, he was second or third rate character.
They already canceled his book. They had to finish the story in 2 other books, which was Avengers and Marvel 2 and 1. So he wasn't a really popular character, but I still thought it was a pretty tragic, hard-hitting death. And so what in the next one? James Hudson, who's the Guardian from the series Alpha Flight, he dies in issue 12. And he has a chance to save himself. He's got to figure it down to the last second because his armor's really, really beat up. It's getting ready to blow up. Right, before it's getting ready to explode.
I wasn't even going to pick up on that now.
And he has 12 seconds to figure out how to keep this explosion from happening and from dying. And his wife comes in right, he's at the last second, and it distracts him, and then he self-destructs right in front of him. Once again, written and drawn by John Byrne, so if you haven't picked it up yet, once again, big John Byrne fan, he does it right.
You can't even finish saying, stop nagging. Oh.
Oh, look now, Heather, it's on!
Damn it, no.
Look, the next one's Jason Todd from Batman. I thought it was Jason Bateman for a minute.
Jason Todd, who is Robin. Was he third Robin?
He is the second.
Second Robin?
He replaced Nick Grayson.
You guys remember that whole thing? How that what was significant about it?
Yeah.
Well, how they determined to kill him?
The phone number, the 900.
People
They
voted.
actually had
People
call
voted, and people voted to kill Robin. The second Robin. because he was-
vindictively. I guess it wasn't even close. I guess it was like, please kill Robin. I will not.
Crowbar, give me a crowbar.
I guess it was like it was so over. They actually felt bad because it was almost like he was a hated character.
Then at one time, with Jason Todd being Robin, they were going to change Detective Comics to Detective Comics because everybody thought Jason Todd was a dick. They hated it.
And that was way before the internet,
No,
too.
Bill, don't do that. Don't say that.
So that's before what?
That was way before the internet, too.
You're right. It was phone calls.
80,
Yeah.
80.
Did they charge you for the phone calls?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
How many times did you call in
I
to kill off
didn't, I
Robin?
didn't call, but I wanted him to live at the time.
Did you
Not
really?
go for him to die.
Ted,
It's
with the
nicer
groups,
back
Ted,
then.
the concert you go to, they play animals. Why did you want him to live?
I was nice back then.
The most annoying part about this whole story is somewhere in there, the Joker gets diplomatic immunity from killing Robin because he becomes an ambassador to Iran. Can you remember that?
Hey, he wore a turban.
Yeah.
He wore. I forgot all about that. He wore got the whole thing. He's got this little turban.
And he's like, Batman, you can't take me to jail for killing Robin because I got diplomatic immunity.
And I will say this: they gave the fans almost all their money's worth because he beats them with a crowbar.
Beats him to death with a crowbar.
But they don't show him actually. It's just
It
the
shows
Joker
the crowbar
bashing
going
him
up.
and bloody and yeah.
Uh,
I forgot about the turban.
Well, killed him and his mom. Killed Jason's mom and his mom.
Jason's mom
Or
deserves
Jason's
it.
mom. Yeah.
Because that's right. She betrayed him.
They didn't even give people a chance to vote on that one. They
Oh
didn't
no,
know
she
what
was
to do.
dead.
So
Why are we laughing about that? Because that's why they voted like that back.
Die, Jason Todd's mom. How about Daredevil 181? What happens in Daredevil 181?
It was Electra, wasn't it?
Daredevil Electra. A character that Frank Miller himself creates in his first appearance or his first issue of Daredevil as a writer and artist, 168. Kills her off in 181, fighting Bullseye. A very, very gruesome, brutal death that is shown in pages. And it's two of the most popular villains in Daredevil. And on the very front cover, you get one will die. There's no doubt about it. And everybody, I thought it was Bullseye. I love Bullseye, but there's no way they're going to kill Electra. Bullseye's dying in this. Nope. And even though some people poke fun at the Daredevil movie, Ben Affleck, it has its problems. It has its high points too. And the death scene of Electra in there is done almost scene for scene, word for word, just like it was in the comics.
And something to note of that death is there's no splash page. There's no it's baby I'm magic.
Yeah.
Blink, and then oop, and then you almost have to read it again like what just happened.
Yeah.
And then
Then
she's dying.
Then she takes the side off her chest.
Yep.
Her own weapon.
Exactly.
And then she crawls to Matt's house and dies in his arms. Then the last one, Frank made a good point about this. This is the death of Captain Marvel, which is Marvel graphic novel #1. One of the few characters that has stayed dead, thankfully.
Yes.
Not that we hate Captain Marvel, but he deserves the respect that, and Frank pointed out that he had people all over the universe come to see him because he dies of cancer. So all these past allies and even some people that he fought comes to honor him as he's dying.
Well, for those that don't know, of course, a lot of people associate Captain Marvel with Shazam,
Correct.
and that was an issue because of copyright or whatever the thing is, trademark. But Captain Marvel was a Kree soldier, and he didn't get big until Jim Starlin kicked in,
Right.
and of course that started the whole Thanos craze.
Right.
Read the reprints. The first Thanos War is probably the best.
You think so? I like the second one.
Well, I mean, like the graphic, the king size issues.
I consider the first Thanos Captain Marvel, second Thanos is Adam Warlock.
Okay. That being said, they did because he had known so many people and he's a military type person and all that. They went through this whole montage of people paying tribute to him, even his enemies, because of the cancer is caused by what powers him, and because it's based on cosmic energy, they can't cure the cancer because the cancer can't be taken out. But it was the first universally like like death where everyone took notice.
Right. They actually made Captain Marvel a bigger character in that one book that he did, or whatever
And
it
then
was.
they killed him off. They killed him off. Well, actually, after Starlin left, he died a horrible death.
We'll get to that later. But then comes the most famous death of all that opens all doors to everything.
To the modern world of death, and that is the death of Superman.
Which we also call the birth of gimmick deaths, because they knew from the moment they come up with the story, they were going to bring Superman back. They're just using this all as a gimmick to sell books. And since then, everybody has freaking died.
Yes.
Captain America, Batman, Nightcrawler, Human Torch. I don't know, almost every character in both universes has died at least once. Green Arrow, Green Lantern.
In fact, DC just does a cosmic switch. They mutilate the whole universe. They go, you know what, cosmic event? Boop, let's go back to this point now.
And it never happened until the death of Superman. Just imagine what the comic book universe would be like if there was no gimmick deaths. Nightcrawler died. He died a stupid, terrible death, but he got to stay dead. You chose to kill him. He's dead. Iron Fist. Remember how Iron Fist died? You remember?
Scourge, wasn't it?
No.
Beaten to death?
He was sick. Yeah, he was asleep.
He was beaten to death.
I mean, he's sleeping.
You got this master kung fu guy, super senses,
This
everything.
Sam-like character.
Yeah.
Beat him to death.
As
He's
a teenage
half
boy,
asleep. He's half asleep and they beat him to death.
I think the guy's
name's
name's Captain Power or Captain Action or something like that. Beats him to death.
Captain Generic Villain.
Yeah. Moon Knight falls down a silo and dies. Then they had some terrible deaths. Just writers that couldn't figure out what to do with the characters no more, so let's kill them all. But in the real world, you might get killed stupid.
It's one thing if we fall down the steps, but then you got somebody that's been a hero for how long and how does he die? Oh.
Ted's the only Walking Dead fan here. You're not watching the series or reading the book? So it's not a spoiler. Spoiler alert if you're watching this and you haven't read the latest Walking Dead issues. But how do you think, what do you think when Brother Gabriel died recently?
I guess I haven't read that. I'm like,
You haven't got that yet?
Jesus, Bill, you just Jesus, Bill, you just spoiled it for
like
him.
6 issues read.
Oh,
Frank.
When you thought that, I did
Oh,
Frank. Yeah, I
Pull
did
a
Frank.
Frank.
I have a terrible memory.
Brother Gabriel doesn't die. That's just a
Okay,
trick
okay,
question.
that's
It's a
good.
trick question.
You seem good.
He gets hit by a bus driven by a
A little misdirection. little misdirection there.
But Deaths in Comics almost becomes like South Park, where every week they kill off Kenny, and you're expecting it. It's like, oh no, who did we kill this week? Oh, this is Captain Marvel.
It's gonna be.
It's Robin.
But they won't kill off Spider-Man. They won't kill off.
And they kill off Spider-Man.
Well, you know what's interesting now is it's actually.
You ever read the story called The Other, which was terrible?
Well, you know, and then like now you're actually doing it because of other comic movies. Like they killed off Wolverine because they don't want to advertise for Wolverine because Marvel doesn't own the rights to Wolverine.
Right.
They killed off the FF, not kill off the FF. They stopped the series because they don't want to own the right to give press to Fox. And it's stupid.
Which also, if we go back to Walking Dead just for a minute, I won't give anything away now. Walking Dead's almost a reverse gimmick book because every issue or so, you expect somebody in The Walking Dead to die. And if you don't get somebody dead, you get mad. It's like,
And the controversy of the show is, you know, that for a while there it had to be an African American because people were complaining that it seemed like every minor character that was being killed in the show was African American. And there was actually like people were talking about it.
it's crazy. That's the world we live in now.
Well, I mean, it's just one thing. It's almost like if you mean it, like, I mean, if you mean it like the red, what do they call those, the red shirts from Star Trek. I mean, that becomes the running joke, you know. But I mean, at some point, you have to take notice of who you're killing, you know.
Thank God.
And the question is that if you kill so much, do you get numb to it?
Right. I don't know. I haven't gotten numb to death in Walking Dead yet because they still pull them off pretty dramatic.
In the book, you read the book.
In the book. The TV's just a watered down cartoon version of it. I don't read.
Spoken. Yeah, don't hold that in, Bill. Just let it out like your feelings about Walking Dead the show.
They turned Tyrese into a little like
A lamb.
he has
A
like
lamb. Big hulking guy.
Look, I made cupcakes. All right, comic book series. We'll stop talking about death a little bit. We'll just talk about comic book series that never recovered after a certain creator left, like Aquaman and Jeff Johns. Do they material?
Now, did you notice a change when you read it?
Yeah, it wasn't as good.
It wasn't good. Did you end up dropping the title because there you go.
Perfect point
That's
right
what we're
there.
talking about. And the first one on our list, Frank, you want to talk about the first one on our list? It's
Yes.
not true, but I think it's true.
The decline of the FF started with John Burnley.
When John Byrne was writing and drawing the FF for almost 5 years, immediately after he left the book, it went downhill. And it stayed downhill.
But that being said, even Bill admits that, you know, there's this debate because he's a much more prolific writer than I am. That anytime you do, how many issues did he do?
He started from 237, I think, to 292.
So 60 some odd issues over the course of 5 years, 6 years.
You can shut the door for free.
5 years, 6 years. Sometimes you're gonna go through ruts.
Right.
And Burns' stuff towards the end wasn't quite on par with the stuff from the beginning.
The first stuff in the very beginning was very dynamic, up to
Right.
about 250. And it takes a little bit of dip, but it's still better than anything else out there.
Right.
So, and after Byrne leaves, it gets really bad. The only high point is Mark Waid did have a pretty good run on the book after the book.
But it never rebounded. It never rebounded sales-wise.
They already canceled the book twice by the time Mark Waid got to it. So it,
And also, you have to look at, and you would see this, well, you know about this, they don't. But the 70s and 80s, and then especially the 90s, when the comic boom just went, everyone had their own title, you had a lot more disposable characters that had their own books. Now you get to the 2000s, and now in the 2010s, the they're now eliminating characters, but they're putting out more titles, more titles, let's just stick with more titles like Spider-Man, the big characters, because the money's not out there. It's just not.
Nope.
You're right.
So,
No, and then the next one we said that once this creator left, the book really tanked. We talked about earlier a little bit. Is Captain Marvel?
let's get something straight. The book was never established until he took it.
Yeah. The book was already canceled twice before Jim Starlin took over. Starlin takes over, makes it a great book, then he leaves. As soon
After
as
how many
he-
issues?
Very short run.
It's like a blank.
Yeah.
It's like 10 issues.
Maybe 10. Yes.
And
I know
if
the
you have
last
a chance to
one's
read it,
33.
if you're interested in the Avengers movies coming up, it's well worth a read if you find the reprints of it, or if
Yeah.
because it's just good stuff.
And then as soon as he leaves, the book goes on to issue 62, but it gets a little better at the end with when he
Yeah, but who wants to see Captain Marvel fight the mailman? Or whatever god awful villains they brought up for that.
Then we have one of your favorites.
This one's my favorite. This one, Alan Moore buttheads out there, Saga of the Swamp Thing. You've read that today.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Alan Moore's run on the Swamp Thing, Saga Swamp Thing, is incredible.
Is incredible. If you like the combination of horror, Sandman, Hellblazer type stuff, it's absolutely.
Stuff that really makes you think and freaks you out at the same time. Really good stuff.
And he
really well
won
drawn.
so many awards for it. He won so many awards, and it's almost it parallels the first Swamp Thing run in the '70s, which we'll get to that later on.
Right.
But Moore takes just your basic: I'm a man turned into a plant. I'm trying to keep my humanity, and I'm fighting all these odd ends people. And he actually, believe it or not, Bill and I talk about this all the time. Remember the first 13 issues said with the Antichrist saga? What was called?
It's
something
not
else.
Alan Moore.
It's not Alan Moore.
Oh, yes.
But it's about the
The
Antichrist.
first 13 issues.
That's actually very good and very well done.
It's not Alan Moore though, but because Alan Moore's stuff is so good, that run by Martin Pasco
It's overlooked.
It's overlooked.
But the Alan Moore stuff is absolutely. And Alan Moore establishes, guess what? You're not a man that turned into a plant. You died.
and you're a plant that thinks you're a man.
And you're plants that think you're a god.
And he introduces Constantine during that run. And once again, Moore's run towards the end gets a little weaker than the stuff that started the run. But as soon as he leaves, the book's terrible for years. And they try to revitalize it more than once. They cancel it, bring it back. And it's still not what it was when Alan Moore was running.
One story that was controversial, but it won a ton of awards. It was a single issue. Ted, can you guess which one? What character involved? Not an established character, but what was the who did he try to help?
Something?
Yeah, issue 40, I think it was. It was a woman who was abused by her husband, and he got the controversy was, and this is, I'm not making this up, she was a lycanthrope. He tied it to her menstrual cycle. Now, he actually got in trouble. This is like 83,
Right.
and you didn't talk about that back then. And the problem was he tried to help her. Finally, she had enough, and she tried to help her with the husband, and she goes full out wolf on him.
Right.
And it's a great story. But he won like I think every award on the planet for
That's
that.
why you tell me that. I think I get that volume.
Oh, it's awesome.
Then the last one you also brought up was very interesting.
Walt Simonson Thor. Has anybody read it? Oh my goodness! If you like Thor, Chris Hemsworth Thor. No, you don't watch the movie. She doesn't watch the movie.
I like Chris Hemsworth was a Thor though. I like Chris Hemsworth.
Well, this is what gave Thor his epic god bad news.
Right.
And the artwork is, I mean, like,
Introduced Better Rate Bill and Malekith.
oh yeah. All the but
And Curse.
oh,
He's in there.
but it made Thor epic. It made Thor. There's one issue. There's two issues. Was it one or two with the Fan for the Dragon?
That's one.
Where Simonson just does 1 page per panel
Right.
because it involves this immense dragon, and that was also the Midgard Serpent he does
Yeah,
too.
Midgard Serpent.
Where it's just one panel per where he's fighting, and it just gives this huge, like you're watching, you're reading just something epic. It's
And-
epic like 5 times.
In 3 of these books that we mentioned, including this one, the writer is the artist. So he has so much creative control. Byrne on Fantastic Four, or Starlin on Captain Marvel, or Simonson on Thor. But once Simonson leaves Thor, once again, it gets really bad. They cancel it a couple times. Has a brief kickback with Sterinsky's run that's almost tolerable. It gets really crappy really fast. So, but now we come to a section, as every regular RaynMan fan knows, every episode has something called the Comic Celebrity Death Match. When Frank and I kind of bicker over something, we have the audience choose who wins, who had the better point or defended the point best. Seeing how this is the last RaynMan, we're going to give you two. This is the first one. And this is a comic creative team, is that right?
No.
Comic series that we felt got canceled too soon, right when it was starting to hit its prime. Frank, I'll let you go first. What's the comic series? You forgot, you've been thinking one. Okay, he's like, Smurfs.
No. I actually have one, but it's a little avant-garde.
Okay. Avant-garde.
I am going to say Hulk.
Hulk. Got canceled too soon?
1 through 6.
Oh, okay.
So here's my point on
Cheater?
this. For anybody who doesn't know, I'm like a huge Hulk fan. And when he first told me
And he
this,
likes
I'm
the Hulk a
thinking,
lot too.
first he told me all this, and I'm thinking, okay, blah, 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 what it would be. But then I started thinking, the Hulk was canceled after 6 issues in the 60s. In the 60s.
You cheated.
When you had X-Men, which was not good for the longest time. You know, the X-Men title. You had all these titles that were starting up on goofy things. You had Thor. I mean, even though Thor and all them, none of them broke the mold. Spider-Man and FF were the two titles that broke the mold, because FF was the first title that launched Marvel Silver Age.
Right, of course.
And then everyone fell in love with Spider-Man because of the whole geeky teen,
Right.
you know, that he had a social life thing. But then I started thinking about Hulk. It's like, why did they cancel Hulk? It wasn't worse than, you know, Iron Man, X-Men, Thor.
The Russian robot? That's pretty
Dude,
bad.
everyone had that.
That's pretty
The
bad.
Toad and
The Toad
X-Men.
Man?
I mean, or the Toad Man and that. But everyone had their back. Look at Thor. The little walking
All right.
stalactite rock man that, you know, they bring him back.
There's a
later on.
Stone Man from Saturn.
Stone Man from
Right.
Saturn. So I guess my point is that, okay, you got all these goofy characters that you're giving a chance of not stopping. You stop the Hulk. But then you determine that the Hulk's gonna be put in different books over the next however many years, and he's a hit every time he's there, to the point to where they bring the series back.
Well, you know why they canceled the Hulk? Because it was stupid.
No, that's stupid.
Every issue he changed. This time he talks like a gangster. This time he talks like Bruce Banner. Sometimes he has a small head.
So, Rick
Sometimes
Jones
he's-
say, you want to get to say? No.
Sometimes he's drawn by Jack Kirby. Sometimes he's drawn by Steve Ditko. It's inconsistent.
No, it doesn't matter. You had all that goofiness. Look, only in the 60s could you pick out Silverman on a surfboard and make him a hit.
Oh,
So
yeah.
why can't the Hulk keep his own title?
Oh, no, they canceled it.
They
I think it
just
was
did.
justified.
I mean, look, Kirby and them were writing, what, 30 books a week? What the hell was one? What, you're going to get rid of that one?
Sure. Well, here's the one that really got canceled too soon. Iron Fist by Claremont and Byrne. You only get 15 issues of this series. Right when it's hitting its stride, it's one of the best writers, best illustrators in comics. They cancel it. They got to continue it for 2 issues of Marvel Team Up. They spin him over in Power Man because Power Man's a dopey character, and they think we'll put Iron Fist flipping, make it better.
Ted, answer this for me. Besides issue 14 and 15, what viable villains were in 1 through 13 besides
Chaka Khan.
Yeah.
Chaka
besides
Khan.
Plant Man, Chaka Khan. What was anybody else that was noteworthy? Besides, don't say Iron Man in issue 1 because he's not a villain.
What about
Batman or Iron Fist?
Yeah, no. An Iron Fist.
Okay.
Issue 1 he fought
Sabretooth.
Iron Man.
I don't know,
I said
Sabretooth.
Sabretooth and X-Men 14 and 15. Tell me the
He's not in
total.
15.
No, I guess not.
He's in
X-Men,
14.
X-Men's in 15.
The X-Men's in 15.
But all the shit.
Boomerang.
Boomerang sucks.
Boomerang's in there.
Boomerang's like we're a better villain than Boomerang. The plant people.
Well, what's his name?
Those
Master
guys
Khan.
are cool.
Master Khan's the main villain in the whole thing.
Damn it, Ted.
Don't you
you're not
remember them
helping
in
my-
the Namer run?
Ted, well, they're terrible villains. You're
I wanna
talking about the
remember
Hulks and the
Arcade
Puppet Man, the Toad Man, and the Russian Man.
All right, so we got to let the audience figure out. Michael,
Yeah.
Hulk getting canceled, worse or better than Iron Fist gets canceled? Which ones would you vote on?
Hulk.
I love that hair.
He's got to leave.
Oh,
The Hulk.
sorry.
I thought you were racing the Hulk.
Don't you even tell them to
Bring
because
up the
they,
cake. You get to pick.
they're going to equalize that just to make it even.
Oh, now you put that point in your head.
Well, I was gonna go with Iron Fist, but just because I.
Well, see, if she takes Iron Fist, you're still beating me
Wait
2
till
to
hey,
1.
watch the Netflix show and you'll change your mind.
All right, Brandon, you can make it a tie, or Frank can win.
I do like the idea of making it a tie since you brought it up, but I was thinking the Hulk before that, so I think I'll go with the Hulk.
How about you over there? There's nobody over there.
I
He said Iron Fist.
I see Hulk.
Frank wins the first round. He usually does beat the hell out of me in these things. I don't know how that happens.
Well, you know what? Honestly, I was actually having trouble until I realized about the Hulk. Is like,
As soon as you pulled the Hulk out, I was scared. I was scared.
wait a minute. We talk. Oh, you're talking about the comic. And that's when Frank pulled the Hulk out on Bill.
How about creative teams that ended too soon? In this first one, Frank came up with it, and I thought, are you sure? They had a great
Now,
run.
Yeah. Well, I gotta ask first. How many issues did he do for Aquaman?
They're
A
just
while.
It was a good chunk of them. But
Okay. All right. Okay. Ted, what do you think? It's a famous. Anybody can chirp up. It's a famous. It happened in the 80s.
I don't even think of it. It's in my face.
And he never thought about this, and I couldn't believe he didn't think about it. I thought it'd be all over.
I was like, are you sure they had a great run?
They put him back on the map and made him pop culture-ish.
Peter David?
No, close.
No, that's actually an argument though. But
He had the harpoon for him.
Byrne, Claremont, X-Men.
Byrne, Claremont, excellent. And I'm going to say Terry Austin.
Now people confuse the Claremont. Who wrote before Byrne?
It was Claremont and Cochran. They Cochran.
They don't realize that Claremont and Cochran did the first 14 issues of Claremont's run of X-Men.
Right.
Byrne took over 108, which I'm telling you right now. All you have to do is look at issue 106, 107, and look at 108, and it's like a slap in the face. How I mean, the covers. I mean, just everything.
Everything's good. And
Everything's good.
He starts at 108. He finishes at 143. You'd think it's a pretty good run. And that's why I didn't consider it. But Frank said they should have stayed together longer. Think what they could have done if they stayed together for another 12 issues.
Right.
Another 15 issues. They'd already changed the face of comic book history with the 33 issues that they did. Just think if they
The
did.
caveat of this discussion though is the fact that it put them on the map.
Yes.
X-Men was pure, unadulterated craptacular
Craptacular.
beforehand. I mean, they were already canceled, and these guys brought them into the mainstream, not just popular, into the mainstream.
Next one also, I'm going a little fast because we're looking at time. We got about 10 more minutes. Frank brought up this one as well, and it's very, very true, very surprising. During the late 80s, early 90s, a great writer named David Michelinie teamed up with a guy named Todd McFarlane
Todd McFarlane?
on Amazing Spider-Man. Brought the book back to a very prominent state. Unfortunately, it was a blink in time.
Yep.
Before
But
right when you get used to the
first
quality.
Venom,
First Venom.
first Venom's a big name, but some of that run is considered iconic Spider-Man.
Right. And then what happens, Todd McFarlane wants to write and draw. He gets his own Spider-Man title in the book.
In the 90s,
Yeah.
which became the big 90s boom where they had $1 million seller.
And you
million
immediately
comic
realize
sellers.
that Todd McFarlane's storytelling pacing is terrible. You need somebody else to guide the storytelling aspects. His art's dynamic and visually stunning, but storytelling-wise, those issues that he did Spider-Man are okay. I own them, but at the same time, not as strong as what he was doing with Benjamin.
Next to last one that Ted almost touched on, but we're going to split it in two.
It's actually a tie.
I've been the first to say years, and then Ted knows this from I'm surprised the Hulk has lasted this long. I'm surprised that the Hulk
I'm angry.
kept his
I'm
book.
angry.
He became an iconic hero. I never understood why. I used to have every Hulk book, and I've read them all. And I sat there and go, oh my God. I don't know. When are they canceling this book? But Peter David,
Todd
they
McFarlane.
took over Todd McFarlane, once again, for the same reason as Spider-Man, brought Hulk into the mainstream, whole different look, whole different dynamic. Hey, by the way, the Hulk's not invulnerable. He regenerates fast, just like Wolverine does.
You do know why he got that? Why that
Cancer.
No. Why they let Peter David do anything he wanted with the book?
Oh, they didn't care.
Yeah, it was on the verge of cancellation. Do whatever you want with it, and he did, and it was good for a number of years. Got even better though the second time with the other.
With Dale Keown.
They'll.
And in between, Peter David had good stuff, but I mean, when you got the right artist, although Bill is a huge Keown fan compared to McFarlane.
Oh yeah, the Keown runs a lot better than McFarlane because once again, McFarlane, even with a good writer, his storytelling and his art is not as vivid details as Dale Keown. We have a special guest.
Anyhow, get the hell out of here, you big deadbeats. No, but and the only downfall of it is the first Ang Lee Hulk movie was just based on Peter David's Hulk, just didn't translate.
And then another one that this is my only contribution to this list. Frank did such a great job with the other three. Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams of Green Lantern and Green Arrow. Just when that started, it's gone. and they actually had to finish it as backups installments in the Flash, as backup stories. So just when it's hitting its pace, making the news, changing comic book culture.
And to be honest with you, and it made news back in the
Made news.
70s. So.
And we have a couple of personal favorites. Do you have a personal favorite?
My personal favorite, once again, going back to the Swamp Thing, for those of you who don't follow, Bernie Wright, who just recently passed away, I strongly recommend anybody who, we talk about Alan Moore Swamp Thing, read the first 10 issues of the original Swamp Thing from the 70s. It is awesome.
Lynn Weinberg.
Len Wein, and the artwork is absolutely incredible if you like good, rich, disturbing artwork.
You can't see this, but I can't believe I misspelled Lynn Wine's name on there. Look at that.
Yeah, W-H-I-N-E.
Yeah, it's like Lynn Weiner.
Len Wein.
To me, the comic book team that broke up too soon is their name you're going to recognize. I said it about 18 times already. Roger Stern, John Byrne, Captain America. That, I think they did like maybe 8 issues, if that. You got some great stuff in there. You got Captain America actually ran for president. There's a 2-issue one with Patrick and Mr. Hyde.
Mm-hmm.
There's Baron Blood.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of good stuff in there. So, and just when you get ready to enjoy a good long run, they break the team up. They want to do some stuff that Roger Stern didn't agree with, and it's gone. But you can get a trade paperback called War of Remembrance. If you don't got that, pick it up. It's really good.
And last but not least, his last celebrity death.
No, we got something before that.
Oh, what? Oh.
Yeah, because this man Ted,
Oh.
Ted is our biggest fan. He's been with us probably from the beginning. He may not have heard every RaynMan podcast, but he's heard more than probably anybody on the face of the planet besides me, Frank, and a guy named Ray Fowler. And in appreciation of things of all ending, at the very last RaynMan, we have a gift for you, Ted. Believe it or not,
It's a naked picture of Bill.
Oh no, I don't want that.
me neither.
That's why it looks pure white.
This is a script story that me and Frank wrote called The Last Defenders. It's
Oh
the
yeah, I
last-
heard about that. Yeah.
So your job is to get John Byrne to draw it.
Okay.
All right. So, and then this is the last musical project I've ever done. Maybe you'll like it.
Thank you.
So it's the last comic book story I ever did, the last music I've ever done, probably the last comic book story I ever wrote, Frank. Probably the last comic story that Frank wrote.
Aww.
But
Sad.
thank you, Ted. You've been great.
Thank you, Ted.
All the time.
You guys are awesome.
Thank you. We have one very dynamic thing.
Yes. That's all it takes.
And we got one more comic, so then that's back up.
One
Kicking
more.
your ass this time.
We gotta hurry up because I think the people keep
Oh,
looking.
screw that.
Keep looking in and not bringing the tables in.
So, all things end, including our favorite era of comics, which was called the Bronze Age. And we liked the Bronze Age because we were kids at that time.
Right.
Comics meant so much to us. But different critics think that the Bronze Age ended differently for different reasons. I'm going to ask Frank, seeing how he won the last time, if you had a moment in time that you could put your finger on and said, this is what killed the Bronze Age, what ended the Bronze Age, what would that moment be?
If Miracle Man was accepted as part of it, I would say that, but because it was a little off to the side independent, I go with more the theory of Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns. Are you familiar with those? Because the whole dynamic of comics shifted as far as we went from typical story villain storytelling to on the Watchmen where you got this very complex layered of heroes that you don't know tackling whatever issues that are out there, something you would never even think of. To Dark Knight, to Dark Knight Returns, which is the first time you had basically the modern comic, where even though it's an alternate reality, it's, you know, what if Batman was 55 years old? You know, gritty, death, stuff that was normally not accepted with comics back then.
Right?
And it paved the way for the modern age, both of them.
Both of those stories are great, but I'm going to argue saying that that wasn't the end of the Bronze Age, that was the beginning of the modern age. So you can't begin something until something else ends. So the Bronze Age technically has to end first. And although a lot of people say, including Kevin Atkins, a good friend of ours, they think the Bronze Age ended with the Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline for DC, which that has a lot of merit. But if I had my choice, I would put the finger right at when Spider-Man gets his black costume. This is the herald how things are going to change. Characters are going to get darker. It's what comes before Dark Knight and Watchmen. It's the point where you know as a kid things are going to be different from this point on. And I will think that that's in the Bronze Age right there. And we'll put that up to a vote. See if you look at
I didn't expect that.
All
I did not expect that.
So, is Watchmen in Dark Knight the end of the Bronze Age? Or is Spider-Man's black costume the end of the Bronze Age? Oh, he doesn't even have pants, he's gas cast.
Get the hell out of here.
Who you even know showed up?
Yeah. So what do you think, Ted?
The Dark Knight and Watchmen.
I want my
Thank
stuff
God.
back in.
I'm sorry. Richard?
Out of the two choices, I would go with Watchmen.
Oh, man.
Michael?
I'm getting hammered here.
I like his idea of the crisis.
Crisis. Well,
I wasn't,
not. He's voting for
That's
Kevin.
what I thought. That's what I
But no, I would say,
because that's what I always would say.
yeah, that's what I would
They're
say.
saying crisis. You can vote on crisis.
But I actually go
Don't give
before
it
that.
this
I go before that. It's whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
Alan Moore.
Alan Moore, yeah.
Alan Moore.
Who
Superman.
cares about him?
That was the end of it. That's to me.
All right, what do you think?
Dark Knight, Watchmen.
No. Wow, Frank. Last time you beat me up twice in the same show.
Man, I paid off well.
And our last closing thoughts is, I know we got people out there getting ready to want to come in. We want to thank you all, but also at the same time, we both feel right now that comics is changing again. You can sense it, you can feel it. The end is ready to change. And I think we're seeing the end of the modern age. I don't know what you call the new age, the cinematic age, the celluloid age. I don't know what it is, but it's totally different. Comics is completely different than what we remember 4 or 5 years ago, let alone back in the 80s.
Right.
So get ready, strap yourself in. I don't know if you're going to like it or not. Some of us are jumping off. I've had enough. I'm done. I don't do nothing but walk.
He's the new guy. Hey, you kids, get off my lawn! So, anyhow, well, thank you all. It's been awesome.
And thanks for showing up.
Thanks for showing up.
Thanks for doing it for all the time, man.